Morning, Joshua.
I mean, afternoon, but
Oh,
yeah, the same.
fuck, 20 to 2. It is very afternoon. Yeah,
It's very afternoon. How are we?
we're good. How about yourself?
Meh.
Oh,
Surviving under pressure. I've still got this cough, which a week on from having the flu that lasted a week. It's this, that annoying little tickle in the back of your throat, where it's not quite a cough. You just feel like you've got a bit of fluff sat there that could come up at any minute.
sounds lovely.
But you asked. No, do you know what? I'm absolutely fine. Bollocks. There's nothing wrong with me.
I regret asking.
Yeah, there we go.
What are we talking about?
The usual. Load
Sales
of random
leadership.
stuff. Sales leadership, that's the one. Let's do it.
Talk to
Straight
me.
in.
I'll tell you what. I did a video on this morning actually, and it was. There's a lot you can say about sales leadership, and one of the things I hear a lot from business owners, and what I did the video on was I can't keep good reps. I hear all kinds of excuses from business owners. They'll say, oh, they can't cope with the targets, they're too weak-minded, stuff like this. And yet when you take a look internally at their calls, it's nothing to do with that. I think it's predominantly two things that causes a really good rep to leave an organization. And I've seen this from working inside of organizations. Number one is they'll leave for more money. But beyond that, they won't leave an organization where the culture is amazing and they feel valued, even if it's for more money. So the one thing all the business owners I speak with, they're like, "Oh, if I just pay them really well, they'll stay regardless." Dude, that is not true. I have seen reps leave a really well-paid job to earn 2/3 of the money, but in a way better culture. And I think culture is an underutilized asset when it comes to running an effective sales team, because people don't focus on it. They think, I got to train them, I got to stay on them, I got to pay them, and that's all they need. And obviously it boils down to a lot more than that, because according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, most people want and crave significance, validation and value. And we've used the analogy before where it's like, what would you rather have? Would you rather have a manager walk past and sling an envelope onto your desk with an additional $100 in it? Or would you rather have that manager come past and say, Josh, can I have 5 minutes in the office? And you go, oh, fucking hell, what's going on? And you sit down and the manager says, last month you absolutely crushed it. And I just wanted to take a minute to let you know, I'm really glad you're here. Like, genuinely, I think you're a super valuable member of the team. I see how well you operate. I see how other people respond to you, and I see the effort that you're putting in. And I just wanted to personally say thanks. Most people would go, stick your $100 up your ass. I'd rather have that, because validation and recognition is so important logically to all of us,
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think looking back at my career as a high ticket remote closer, looking back at my career face to face sales, 9 or 10 years, whatever that adds up to at this point, probably on about two fingers could I confidently say I had good sales leaders in offers rather than just sales managers. Now, sales manager is daily stand-ups, daily random huddles talking about KPIs and this is what this quarter's performance targets are, which, as a closer, sure, you want to hit your targets, but your eyes glaze over a little bit. And as you just said, there are definitely more reps chasing culture and alignment than slinging it out, being absolutely miserable just for an OTE. Now, real world example, I was in an offer for a day and left because of an absolutely horrible bastard. He definitely wasn't a leader, a manager, the offer owner, just one of the most toxic people you've ever met in your entire life. First group call I jumped on with the other closers, just absolutely berating one of the guys on there. No, it was a fantastic opportunity. Like, other closers were making like 30, 40K a month. And I was like, do you know what? Opportunity, if I just grit my teeth to be here, get to that 40K a month, that's what, $500,000 a year? That would be pretty fucking nice. I would rather go to a 10K a month opportunity and know that I'm going to be there for the next 2 years and have a pretty nice life, not be coached from a place of fear and embarrassment and shame. That is the standard being set by the offer owner for the guys that are generating all of the front end revenue for his business.
That's crazy.
It's horrible. It's just not a place that you want to operate inside of. And yeah, I think there are so many people that they don't really see leadership. The way I see leadership is taking the remote out of the remote team world. If everyone feels like we've all got one hand on the wheel, we're all steering in the same direction, we are all a part of something, in my eyes, that is leadership. That culture, it's so underrated, but there's so many people that just don't care about that, don't even think about that. They just think, well, they're just closers, they're just setters, they're just here to make money. All I need to do is give them the scripts and the frameworks, and we'll have this great random daily meeting. That's all we need. And that's why you have a turnover of closers every, you know, couple of weeks, every couple of months, every 6 months. You completely replace your team because Maslow's hierarchy needs that's not what they want. It's like having a partner. All right, she might have nice, boobs and a nice bum. If that's all she's got going for you, and you're an intellectual guy, she could be an absolute 10 out of 10 stunner. You're still not going to stay with her long term.
Good analogy. I tell you, the best. I've only ever had one really amazing manager, and a couple of things they used to do is in our one-to-ones, they would always ask two really poignant questions. And the first question would be, if you were going to leave this organization next week, what would be the reason for it? Which I thought was a great question, because it gives you the opportunity to go, well, if somebody offered me more money, right? And the reason that they used to ask that question is because it is infinitely less expensive to pay a really good member of the team a bit more than it is to lose a really good member of the team and then have to go through the recruitment process and the ramp up process and potentially waste a load of money in dead leads and all this kind of stuff. So that was question number one. If you were going to leave next week, what would be the reason for it? Clever question. And then the second thing was, if there was anything you would change about the way I manage you, what would that be? Like, how would you change the way I manage you? And I used to sit there and I just thought, that's pretty fucking incredible. Do you know what I mean? You're trying to find out what's going on in my head, and you're trying to figure out whether or not I'm on the cusp of leaving. And you're also asking me for feedback about you. Like, you're not so big that you think you can't learn from getting feedback from the people beneath you. And I just thought they were two really great questions to ask. The problem is, specifically in the high ticket industry, I think a lot of managers imagine that their position is authority. You've got to perceive me as being God. Like, I can't possibly do anything wrong. And yet just having a little bit of humility about who you are and saying, look, dude, is there anything you would change about the way I manage you? Is there anything that you would shift about the interactions that we have? And giving somebody that opportunity, yeah, it's worth so much. I just thought they were two really excellent questions. And the big problem I see in our industry, the kind of online coaching consulting space with regards to sales teams, is nobody teaches you how to be a good manager. Nobody teaches you how to be a good leader. There are very few programs out there that actually teach leadership. And leadership, like anything else, just like sales, just like marketing, leadership is a skill. But people don't take the time to learn it, A, because there's not a lot of resources out there teaching it. And B, I'm pretty sure it's a way down the totem pole in terms of how important they think that is. But I would suggest that leadership is probably behind sales and marketing. Leadership is the next thing, because once you've nailed sales and marketing, you're going to need to start scaling a team, whether that's marketing, VAs, salespeople, whatever it may be. And if you don't have good leadership, you are constantly going to be at the mercy of churn inside of your business. You're going to be constantly hiring, constantly replacing people, constantly putting out fires because there's this internal behind the scenes rumble of people bitching and moaning, and good leadership can eliminate all of that. So I would suggest that really good leadership saves tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars inside of an organization, just in lost revenue, lost time, constant recruitment, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I literally recorded a video about this morning. One of the teams that I manage, both of us work in a way where we like to work hands-on with people. So we don't have, mass market things where we're working with 100 different clients at once. It's a handful of clients so that we can be hands-on with them. Now, there was one rep, I might have even spoken about him before, who, because I meet with them every single day, we got on a meeting and I could just tell instantly something was massively off with him. Just, he was saying all the right words, but just sounded absolutely miserable in comparison to every other conversation we'd ever had. And, under a different structure, he would have jumped on to his day, 8 calls, probably had a shit day, closed absolutely none of them. And that could have spiraled for days, weeks, months, ad spend, all that burn, his own self-validation, oh, I'm a shit closer. Because of the way that I coach and, lead the teams, we caught it straight away. He'd just gone through a breakup with his partner. It was weighing on him absolutely massively. We talked through it. He took a couple of days off. He actually ended up, getting back with his partner because of the conversations we had. It all came down to he was, didn't want to send a text to her. And that, him dealing with that by himself could have gone on for weeks or months and really affected him. And because I was like, dude, just send the fucking text. Because I met with him every day and, knew what he was like, called it out, and we corrected it. That, to me, is the sort of leadership style that I want to have. Now, I'm not saying you need to be a therapist and you need to coach all of your reps
I think
through.
there's an element of that.
I definitely think it comes into it, that you have got to have your finger on the pulse. You have got to go beyond the KPIs and the scripts and the sales training once in a while and just be like, dude, what's going on? Like, what's going on in your personal life? If, again, we've talked about it before, how much of sales is nonverbal communication? Assign your own number as you will to it. But even if you only assign 50% as nonverbal and your internal state was completely off because you've got a relationship breakdown going on in the back end, well, that's 50% of your sale that's, balls out the window per person. So you're probably going to close absolutely zero, deals.
Yeah.
And you have to have someone with a finger on the pulse to call it out. If he was in a different structure where he just had a manager who all they cared about was KPIs, and every daily meeting was like, cool, let's go through the calendars for today. All right, submit your end of day reports. How long could that have gone uncaught and spiraled for?
And the difference is how many managers, when they see a dip in close rate, how many managers will take that person to one side and say, dude, is everything okay? Like, is there anything going on? Versus going, mate, your numbers are off. You better pick it up. Otherwise, we're going to have a serious conversation at the end of the month. It's like, dude, if somebody's going through a rough time, like if they've broken up with their partner, as a good example, and you approach it with a stick, not a carrot, you're just going to make that person worse. So then it begs the question, what do you want as a leader? Do you want your team to perform, or do you just want to be seen by the owner, by the founder, by the CEO to be doing your job? Yeah, no, I've bollocked him, boss. Yeah. As opposed to, well, what do you actually want as a manager? Because what you should want is your team to perform. You should want your team to be crushing it, because then by proxy, the founder, the CEO is going to go, mate, you are doing a great job. And yet so many of these people don't realize that a dip in close rate can be caused by a whole host of things outside of skill set. And I would argue that if you've got somebody who is a good closer and all of a sudden their numbers start to drop, that's more often than not caused by an external force rather than, oh, well, clearly this person just forgot how to sell. Well, they didn't though, did they? Just broke up with their partner. Dog just died. Going through a rough time, like whatever, family members not well, you name it, all of that stuff, because sales is such a psychological game. And I think it was Cole that said once, he said, if you're an accountant, like you can do that job no matter what. You could be ill, you could be going through a tough time because 2 plus 2 is always going to be 4. But when you deal in sales, and sales is so emotional, and you've really got to be dialed psychologically, then making sure you have that person's best interest at heart and doing the right thing is probably going to yield infinitely better results than it is just continuously whipping them all the time.
Yeah.
You know? And if what I would say is, if you've tried all of that and the person says, no, everything's good, and you've tried the skills approach and you think, yeah, it's okay, then you're going to have to seriously start asking yourself whether or not they should have a place on the team, because tolerating mediocrity is the fastest way to bring the rest of the team down, because your top performers will get pissed off at them carrying the rest of the team and you being okay with the rest of the team not performing at their level. So eventually that's going to make them go, what's the point? You know, so there was a whole lot in there. I can't even remember what my point was, but
I think real sales leadership is the difference between having to ask, is anything going on? And instead asking, dude, what's up? I can 100%, because like I said, we just have that cadence where we meet every single day. I know you well enough to know something is going on.
mm-hmm.
Not having to ask, is anything wrong?
Mm-hmm.
If you ask, is anything wrong, to someone you don't really know, that you're trying to feel out. Like if me and you jumped on a call, either of us could probably instantly tell from the way we've said hello,
Yep.
what our morning has looked like, because we speak so regularly that it's just like we know how we interact, we know what our usual demeanor and everything is.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a great point. I think real leadership is, and I mean, that's a good point, isn't it? People say, well, don't get too friendly with your team. Why not? Be friendly with your team. I mean, don't be so friendly that you go out on the piss and they see you, mangled in the gutter at the end of the night. That's probably going to lose you credibility points for sure. But be friendly with the team. Why not go for coffee? Why not show them that you care? I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk, maybe somebody else, I don't remember, that said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think demonstrating to your team that you do care goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people would fight us on that. I know a lot of people, but then these are always the kind of person that would push back on that is usually a toxic piece of shit themselves. Do you know what I mean? And then when you dip inside of their organization and you take a look, nobody's happy to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, well, we spend a fortune on recruiting. We're always recruiting. These pussies don't want to stay. I've had somebody say that to me. Yeah, they're all pussies because they don't want to stay. And I've had to tell that person, look, dude, the reason they don't want to stay is not because they're pussies. The reason they don't want to stay is because you're a toxic piece of shit.
Yeah.
Needless to say, that person didn't hire me. but it was the truth.
You wouldn't have wanted. Yeah, you wouldn't have wanted to work with that person, even if they turned around and said, "Jeff, 100%, agree with everything. Think you're going to do massive things here, but you think they're a toxic piece of shit." You'd be like, "Dude, I can put all the systems in place. You have still got to be the captain of this ship at the end of the day. And if the captain of the ship is an absolute toxic asshole, the second I step out the door, it's all going to go back to as it was before, because that is who you are."
You're a toxic asshole. Yeah.
You are just a toxic asshole. And there are some people, like, we talk about identity all the time. As much as we can shift perspectives and we can reframe things and we can get people to adopt new identities, it is easier said than done. Like, if you've always been an asshole in relationships, just because you've broken up with your sixth partner and you realize you're a bit of a piece of shit, does that mean that you're going to be different in the seventh relationship? Not necessarily. Probably a lot of things will start seeping back in when you get a bit more comfortable, and it'll be the same with a manager. They will always default to just the person that they are. But if that's the way that they have learned sales and management, imagine they've been a manager for even a couple of years, that is their 2 years total experience. To try to mangle and, show them how it should actually be done, shape them in the right way, it's a uphill challenge, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree. Flip-flop back and tell me a bit more about that toxic? You don't have to name any names or
Mm.
organizations or anything like that. Just give a bit of an example of what made it toxic and why you lasted 24 hours before you went, not for me.
Just an asshole. Just to his core.
Don't pull your
It
punches,
was
mate.
there's a with fitness people, especially people that have really worked on their bodies, and I don't say this as a dig and put everyone under this category, but in my experience, especially the high ticket world, having worked for a number of them, there are a lot of guys that get into this mentality that they are the cream of the crop. There is no one that has achieved more than they ever have or will. They know everything there is, and anyone below them who hasn't achieved the same as what they perceive themselves to have achieved, that was a mouthful, is inferior. That's the sort of mentality that they come to and adopt. And as I said, in this particular example, every closer is in charge of that ego a little bit, because they're the people collecting the revenue that gets them to that sort of status, that point in their life where it doesn't just become about their body. The bank account also starts building and it feeds that ego. And they just, have this bit of like a God complex. And they take it out on everyone because they feel like everyone should be at their level. And anyone that isn't is just a piece of shit, basically. And then it's like one mistake, no matter how stupid or small it might be, in their mind is just like a mountain has been pushed off a cliff. It's going to completely affect the reputation of the company. And yeah, just like worst case scenario sort of mindset. Everything is so much bigger than it actually is. And when you coach like that, when you have that mindset and that mentality, and that's the way you treat the people that feed your bank account, it's just a horrible fucking way to lead people.
Yeah.
I think his turnover of closers was about every 6 months because he used a
One
recruiter.
closer every 6 months.
The whole team replaced itself every 6 months.
How many people on the team?
3 closers. So as in the closing team replaced themselves every 6 months.
So
they
he's
had the most
churning through a
interaction.
brand new closer on average every 2 months.
Yeah. Just an absolute horrible, horrible human.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's, read any leadership book. It's, praise in public, coach correct in private.
Yeah.
Whatever the phrasing is.
Praise in public, berate in private.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, just never heard of that. So I think the best leaders, I mean, for me, I'm not going to say I'm the best fucking leader in the world. For me, it's very much the way that I lead and coach and train people is through the lived experience of 10 years worth of being able to count on 2 fingers the number of good sales leaders, managers that I've had. We've all worked for bosses where they do just make you feel like a piece of shit. And it's, they don't know your last name. They don't know anything about what's really going on with you. You're just a bum in a seat, which is a horrible place to be. So for me, it's like, could I work with more clients at a time and boost my income? Yes, I could. Would I lose the one-on-one support and, sort of culture that I have with the teams that I do work with? Yeah, 100% I would. And that's not a place that I want to be, because then I'd stop enjoying doing what I'm doing. Everything would go off a cliff as a result of that. So, yeah, I think the best leaders are the people that have probably had really shit ones.
Yeah.
Because they know what bad looks like, so they can have an idea of how to make it at least a little bit better.
That's a great point. So take this individual as a good example. It makes you wonder whether he's modeling somebody else who was the same in his life, or whether he's not modeling anybody and he just thinks that that's how you get the best from people. I wonder which it was.
I don't know. The whole film. So you have the villain of like, I'd rather they feared me than loved me, or vice versa, sort of thing. It's just that I think in his mind, because he modelled such a standard of excellence in his body and his bank account, that was the way that he, thought everyone should be. And I have achieved this. Everyone should feel lucky to be a part of my team. Everyone should, it's just like you're demonstrating the complete opposite. You can have the body, you can have the bank account, you can have the cars and the house. If you're still a cunt at the end of it.
Bleep that. We'll bleep that.
I don't know what words we can get away with on
Nor do
YouTube
I.
and Spotify. If you're still a not very nice person at the end of it, it's just completely inferior. At the end of the day, we all get buried in the same box, under the same dirt at the end of our life. And if all you've got to look back on is the fact that you made a lot of money and you had big biceps and a big chest, dude, fuck that. What have you missed out on as a result of just being an asshole?
Yeah. Yeah. I would rather leave a legacy of good relationships. Do you know what I mean?
I
I
would
always
rather
remember. I don't
everyone
remember.
stood there blubbering because they've lost the both of us. Because we had such an impact that everyone is just depressed for years to come.
Imagine.
They're like, Jeff and Josh are gone.
Whose podcast am I going to laugh at now? I remember somebody saying years ago, and they said, you know what, the measure of how somebody was thought of is their funeral, which is kind of true. When you attend a funeral, it does give you a measure of what that person was thought of. And I remember years ago, my wife's uncle passed away, Uncle Frankie, God rest his soul. Legend of a human being, larger than life. Like, everybody knew when Francis entered the room that the party had started. He was not in a degenerate way. He had a dry sense of humor. He'd make everybody giggle. He was a proper gentleman to the ladies, and then had the foulest mouth to the lads. And when we attended his funeral, people were crowded out of the crematorium, like they were having to stand outside. And I just thought that's the measure of that human being. That's how he was thought of in the world. And people still talk about him to this day. And he was a postman his entire life, spent like 40 years or 50 years as a postie. And everybody knew him. Everybody loved him. And I think the people that chase the validation through income, not that money isn't important to all of us. I'm not saying money isn't important. We wouldn't be in business if we didn't want to make money, right? I'm not saying that's not important, but I just think personally, I think you can make more than enough money and be a decent human being. I don't think you have to be a piece of shit in order to get to where you want to go. And I would probably argue that you'll make more money as a better human being than you will. And I know there's a rhetoric in the marketplace that, you've got to be willing to trample everybody in order to get to the top. I don't think that's true. I really don't. Richard Branson was famously adamant about treating his staff correctly. Gary Vaynerchuk is adamant about, I want people to feel loved. I want them to feel welcome. I want them to feel a part of something bigger. So there are lots and lots of very successful people that have built their organizations out of being a decent person.
Okay.
I just think there are more people that have built their organizations from being a bit of a piece of shit.
Unfortunately.
I mean, I'm out. That's it. You got your blue tack? Why don't you drop it?
There's one more point that I will make on sales leadership. I think there is an infinite amount of resources and information when it comes to learning high ticket sales. Now, it's the same as, any skill in the world. I can watch 100 hours of grade 6 piano. If I walked into a recital after, watching 100 hours worth of stuff and was expected to nail Beethoven, it's probably not going to end up very well.
Not going to go
right.
well.
The same as I can watch boxing on the telly, doesn't make me a boxer. I can study it, doesn't make me a boxer until I get in there and do the hard work. A good sales leader is someone that actually helps you sell, as dumbed down, as stupid as that sounds.
Of course.
Right? The courses, the doing stuff at a distance by yourself is great. Having someone that molds you into becoming, how do I phrase it? Into you being hang on. Forgot to talk.
Nice.
Thought about how to say it and then completely ballsed it up.
Go again.
A closer should never be a carbon copy of their sales trainer. A good sales leader molds someone into the best version of themselves. I don't sell the exact same way as you sell, even though 90% of, my sort of perfecting closing came from meeting you. So although it's the same frameworks, it's the same words, it's the same psychological understanding, you molded me to become the best salesperson and closer that Joshua Herford could be. Not, here's a carbon copy of Jeff Ketterer, because it would just never work. So a good sales leader actually understands the team that he's working with, understands how to develop their strengths and weaknesses, mold them into who they need to become to get the results, to get the 10, 20, 30, 50K a month, whatever it is. I feel like I'm absolutely butchering this. This was supposed to be such a profound point, and
Mate, I don't think you
know
are.
what I'm saying.
I think it is a profound point. I think
Yeah.
I think you're 100% bang on, and a lot of people get that wrong. They're like, I need to make carbon copies of me, and in actual fact, that's probably going to shoot you in the foot. What you need to do is give people the correct word tracks, the correct mindsets, and exactly what you said, help them become the best versions of themselves.
Yeah. It's why so many people, even though Jeremy Minor is regarded as one of the best, if not the best sales trainer on the planet, there's still so many people that will shit on him. Go on.
Not saying a
No,
word.
fine. Regarded, whether you hold the opinion or not, right? There is a lot of people that will say that, but then they'll also say his stuff doesn't work because they try to be Jeremy Minor. And it's like, you are never going to be Jeremy Minor. Jeremy's stuff works for him the same way that Cole stuff works for him, the same way that Bill's stuff works for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is never going to be another Cole Gordon, Jeremy Minor, Matt, anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It works for them. You've got to understand, you've got to take the principles and apply it to yourself and find the people that can actually help elevate you and adopt it, not just stop studying it and start putting it into practice, perfecting it, mastering it. That's what a good sales leader will do. And that's what we try to do with our community. Why do you keep smiling? Go on. What are you going to say?
I like your face.
Well, yeah, it's very rosy. I need to get to summer and then the fucking rosacea fucks off a bit, but there we go. That's what we try to do with our community, right? I am never trying to make a carbon copy of Joshua Herford. You're never trying to make a carbon copy of Jeff Ketterer. It's always, how do we help people become the best version of themselves? We've got such a variation of people in our community. We've got people that are very A-type. We've got people that are a bit more meek and mild, and they'll say that quite happily. We've got people that are a bit more analytical. It's how do you play to your strengths and weaknesses, take the same frameworks, the same information, everything we need to get, but deliver it in a way that is congruent to you. Add-ons?
You're leaving me crumbs.
Leaving you crumbs.
On that note.
On that note.
See you next time.
There we go. Sales leadership.
Done.
All done. Dusted.
I'm
Boot
out.
hack. Dropped.
See you later.
Hit the red button.